Good afternoon, everyone. It's my privilege to invite Dr. Pravin Bhagwat to the stage. We've been hearing about 14 trees throughout the day today. Pravin Bhagwat is basically the founder and the brain behind the 14th Tree Foundation. So apart from his technology background and his entrepreneurial journey running a tech company, Praveen has recently, for the past few years, has taken time off to focus on, looking at the sustainability of converting barren lands to creating sustainable forests by working with a variety of groups, including nature enthusiasts, the tribals, the villagers, and of course with the various landowners who have this barren land. Is working with all of them to convert those barren lands to sustainable forests. Prior to that, Praveen spent almost 15 years for running a company focused on in the area of wireless networks. His company was called Airtight Networks, rechristened as Mojo, and then finally got acquired by Arista Networks in 2018. He was working with Arista and then took time off to focus on this new venture called 14 Trees. Praveen earned his BTech in computer science from IIT Kanpur, and then his master's and PhD from UMCP, University of Maryland College Park. So let me welcome Praveen to the stage and take it off from here.
I think about 3 months ago, Hemant called me up one day and said, we want you to give a talk at the ACM annual event where Bob is going to be the keynote speaker. And I said, you got something wrong here. I mean, you got ACM award winners and all the laureates coming and giving a talk. The last time I wrote a paper in ACM Movicom was 25 years ago. And at SIGCOM was 30 years ago. So I'm out of touch for 25 years, and there is nothing I can offer in the tech space to this community of people. I'm doing completely low-tech stuff lately, which obviously I can talk about. But after we sort of talked a little bit on the phone, I said, maybe I can weave a story where I can bring in some Ethernet and maybe some Wi-Fi and also squeeze in some ACM connection into this whole thing. And maybe that will make it a little bit contextual for the people in this room. So it's a stretch, but I'll try it nonetheless. So, and there's also a reason I started with this picture, and why I'm using this picture to start the talk will become clear somewhere halfway down in the presentation. By the way, there is no text in the presentation at all. It's all pictures. So make sure that you have a clear view of the screen because all the story is actually in the pictures. So, because all the story is actually in the pictures. So I remember 1990 is the year when I started grad school at University of Maryland. And in our networking group, we had these big workstations and cables running all over the place. And we used to work late at nights and used to think, someday these cables have to go away. Won't it be cool if we replace it by wireless? And I knew Bob already was thinking about it 30 years ago. It's just that the silicon was not ready, and I think 90s was a time when it was about to get ready in that form. And as the luck would have it, I landed up a job in 1995 at IBM Watson Research, exactly in the group which was building a 900 megahertz frequency hopping wireless LAN. So that's how my journey with Ethernet, wireless Ethernet actually started. And that's the picture I pulled out from the archive. US Robotics had built a device called Palm Pilot at that time, and IBM had then OEM deal with US Robotics, and they had rebranded as an IBM device. It had an RS-232 interface. And my project was to take the bits out of the RS-232, somehow package it up in 900 megahertz frequency hopper channel, and then send it out. And finally, this is the form factor we could manage. So that wireless adapter was 4 times bigger and heavier than the Palm Pilot, but people were kind of laughing at it when we were going around the corridor saying, hey, I sent a character P. So I think you had experienced that 30 years ago. We had the same joy in 1996, sending some characters across this RS-232 link. So that's how my kind of a journey started. And few years down the road, I saw a lot of my colleagues leave IBM, start their companies. So I also got that itch that, maybe I ought to be doing the same thing. So I quit, started a company in wireless security, 2003, called Airtight Networks. And the insight behind the company was that Ethernet is secure because the wires are confined within the walls. But the moment you put the signal over wireless, an adversary can directly see what's in the air. So not only can eavesdrop, it can also inject packets in the air. It can also modify packets in the air. So the whole security model of Ethernet breaks down the moment you kind of send a signal over wireless. And hence, a new attack surface started emerging that people could do denial of service attacks over Wi-Fi. I mean, aside from the encryption which was broken, even if you had correct encryption, you could do replay attacks, you could do denial of service attacks. So a whole new demand kind of got created in the market, and the company I started, Airtight Networks, it was building an intrusion prevention technology using which you could secure Wi-Fi networks. And the insight was very simple, that if you have a bad guy in the air, Ethernet is a shared medium. Can you somehow shut that bad guy down? And it turns out that you can play tricks with the MAC protocol. And by playing those tricks at the MAC layer, you can cause a uncooperating guy to not have access to a channel at all. And that is exactly the technology that we created, patented it, built a wireless intrusion prevention product around it. And that's how my sort of entrepreneurial journey in the Wi-Fi security space started. Around 2009 is the year when there were a lot of hacks happened. I mean, the TJ Maxx retail store got hacked, and suddenly PCI compliance became a big deal, and people were looking for a cloud-managed, cheap solutions for wireless security. That's when we pivoted and created a cloud-managed solution for these distributed sensors. And then around 2016, we entered the mainstream Wi-Fi market and renamed ourselves as Mojo Networks. Brought in some elements of AI, automated troubleshooting, smarts into the system. And finally, we got acquired by Arista in year 2018. So now, Arista, as some of you know, is the leading provider of data center networking. In fact, every day, the data that you're consuming on your phone or your laptop is very likely it is coming through some Arista switch somewhere in the world. And so the wired, wireless, unified solution that Arista sells, the entire technology has actually come in from Airtight Mojo, which has now got embedded into the product. So that's how kind of I got into this space. Now, while this whole entrepreneurial journey was unfolding, I was living a kind of a split life. The headquarters was in Mountain View and the engineering was in Pune. So I was traveling a lot between the two time zones. A lot meaning maybe sometime 8, 9, or 10 times a year. So every 5 weeks, I used to be on the plane, go meet customers, come back, run the engineering. And one thing is, I realized that sometime when you're alone in the plane, that's the real quality time. Sometimes get to really think, reflect your role in the world, what you are doing, ask questions, and so on. So I got a lot of that time because of the travel I was doing. And naturally, many questions popped up in my mind. And one of the questions that actually popped up in my mind was, I have been a very nature lover since my college days. I do a lot of backpacking, trekking. I've been probably at about 45 national parks in US, camped there, done trekking. So you develop a lot of appreciation for nature. And those of you who live in or been to Silicon Valley, if you drive on the highway 280, it's a beautiful stretch, beautiful scenery. And if you drive from Pune to Mumbai, that scenery is very similar to Highway 280. in terms of the kind of terrain and the mountains. But something that bothered me, that whenever I used to go from Pune to Mumbai, that highway is beautiful during monsoon, during rains, there are waterfalls, greenery, but there are times of the year I notice that those hills are on fire. So first I thought maybe it's just an accident. So I kind of ignored it. But I saw that pattern repeat every year around March, April timeframe. The hills are on fire, and you see it more clearly if you're driving late at night. So typically when the flight from US lands in Mumbai, it lands at midnight. So you take a taxi, drive home, and at night when you're driving on that highway, you see all the hills are on fire. So I saw that scene over and over again in the backdrop of this wireless networking company I was running. And this particular picture, I remember I took it in the year 2016 when I was going for a sort of an off-site meeting in Lonavala. So I got down off my car, took the pictures, and luckily I had it in my archive. So these sites actually bothered, why as humans we are deliberately burning things down when we should be protecting and conserving them. So in the flight picture I showed, so this was another question that I used to think a lot. Sorry. Then I remember once I was reading an Economist magazine in the flight, and this article was on global warming. It had numbers like before 1800 there was 600 gigatons of CO2 in the atmosphere. Now it's 850, and after I read the article, I still couldn't relate to these numbers. See, if you work in networking, we understand what kilobit means, what megabit means, what gigabit means. But when it gets into the weights, I don't have that same level of intuition that I have for bandwidth. So for example, is this a number so big that I should lose my sleep over it? Or what is it that I do? How does it relate to these numbers? I mean, there's no connection. And then I remembered and this is an incident from my first year in IIT. I remember that while we were doing the physics course, there's a very famous textbook by Richard Feynman. And while reading the textbook, there's one place where, and Feynman was a great teacher. I mean, he had a way to explain things. So I still distinctly remember there was one place where he asked the question to students, do you know how small an atom is? And we know atom is like 10 raised to the minus 10 angstrom. But he said, look, can you feel how small that is? And he gave a perfect analogy that you hold an apple in your hand and now think about the earth. So compare the size of the earth with the size of the apple. That's how small the atom is relative to this apple. So that example, I remember when I read in the book, it hit me that if somebody has to come up with analogies, I mean, this is how analogies need to be created. And still 40 years after reading that line, I still distinctly remember that analogy. And I was looking at these numbers. They are not able to inspire me to any action at all. I don't know whether they are big or small. So this was another thing which was on the back of my mind while I was taking these long flights. Now, I am an experimental researcher, so I like to tinker things. So I decided to get into this space, to start tinkering. So this is a piece of land I bought in year 2013. It was a completely barren patch of land. And started doing my experiments. What will it take to rejuvenate it? Can we regrow this without burning the land down? There was no water here to begin with. And after tinkering and experimentation over many weekends, I show you another picture. This picture is taken exactly in the same position of camera where the previous picture was taken. And this transformation has happened at that site in 9 years. Without bringing any water from outside, without bringing any soil from outside, without bringing any fertilizer from outside, using only the local resources available. So it was kind of a aha moment. Oh, looks like it is possible to kind of rebuild things from ground up. So after sort of having some success at doing it once, I started sort of trekking in that area and started understanding, what is happening here. So found out that about 50, 60 years ago, it was a thickly forested region. But if you look at the picture today, this is how it looks on Google Earth. It's completely all clean shaven. All the trees are gone. And the land has been converted from a forest into a grazing land. And it is burnt every month, every year in the month of March and April. So thousands of hectares are burnt. And this cycle repeats every year. So for last 50, 60 years, this cycle has been going on. As a result, the land has become completely barren. It can't absorb water anymore. The water tables have dropped. And this is a story that is repeating sort of at a large scale in many, many parts of the world. So the idea sort of I'm trying is, starting from a land like this and without bringing any water from outside. Because the moment you lay pipelines, you spend a lot of fossil fuel, electricity to pump water back. And the thing is, there is enough rainfall, so why can't you collect the rainfall wherever it is falling? So without bringing pipeline, we are identifying strategic spots where we can store water. And here are some pictures of the type of ponds we have dug in that area to hold rainwater when it rains. Now, obviously, all the time you're not successful. Many ponds are not able to hold water. So the water percolates underground. So you play this game at a large statistical level, and we are getting about 50% success rate. About 50% of the holes are able to hold water, 50% become percolation ponds, but you need both. But whatever water you're able to store, you use it very, very carefully throughout the year to make sure that the trees that are planted can survive. So you only plant as many trees as the water capacity you have created. You don't do anything kind of beyond that. Now, the next question is what kind of vegetation you bring back. And here, rather than trying anything fancy or foreign species, we have taken advice from some of the ecologists and botanists who have studied flora of that region. And they have given us a list of species which originally belong to that region. So we have brought seeds from jungles and grown saplings, and those are the trees we are planting. And these trees are not being planted with any return on investment expectation at all. These are trees which feed wildlife, the trees which feed insects, butterflies, and birds. So you essentially, your aim is to bring biodiversity back. And we are seeing some of that happen. That as you bring the right species, herbs, shrubs, revival starts happening. In fact, some of the ponds I've shown you pictures of, I can now see there's a fish in it. And it kind of puzzles me, where did the fish come from? But it came magically, I don't know how, but maybe the birds, something gets attached to their legs and it comes. So the cycle of life sort of starts operating and things start happening. Now, because these species are of the type which the cattle would love to eat, unless you protect each sapling, it can't survive, it won't survive. So every sapling that we plant, we put some kind of a bamboo tree guard to protect the sapling for about 3 years till it becomes big enough that it can survive on its own. And because we have created this demand for new tree guards, a mini industry of tree guard creation has spawned around our region. So there are many tribals now just busy making tree guards and supplying it to us. So we kind of stimulated that demand in the local economy. So since, you all have done tech companies, we understand what it means to scale. While this is a little toy experiment that's unfolding, obviously it is being done with the view that we want to figure out a replicable model to do it at a larger scale. And and I'm trying to do it as systematically as possible, that every tree has a number, every tree has a URL, we record every activity, when the watering is being done, how the growth, and everything, whatever systematic measures that you can imagine. So it's in some sense a large-scale live laboratory where these measurements are being taken. And hopefully this data will become useful to somebody someday to do some systematic analysis. Um, so finding the land, bringing water, planting the right saplings, protecting them. Few years down the road, I realized this was actually the easy part of the project. The real harder part of the project was doing it in presence of humans around you, because there are too many stakeholders. There are local tribals, there are local villagers, there are sarpanch, there are local politicians who have their political base there. And since you're dealing with large amounts of land, everybody gets suspicious. What are you thinking? What do you have a plan to build like a large resort here or a game reserve? Where is the money coming from? Why am I not getting my piece of the action? I mean, all these kind of human questions come in their mind, and keeping everyone satisfied and aligned to the focus is actually a non-trivial thing. And what I realized that, in this whole picture, if you get humans out of the picture, the land will rejuvenate itself in 100 years. The real challenge is, in presence of humans, how do you achieve this? So the complexity of the problem has shifted from the technicalities of biology and ecology. It is basically doing human management. And since I ran a company earlier, I was the president of the housing society, I had some experience dealing with people. So I said, this is an interesting, complicated problem. And the one thing I realized that when you are running an organization, you have some degree of authority and autonomy and control over the people who report to you. But when you're working in a structure like this, you have absolutely no authority and control. The only way you can manage or lead people is through influence. And that's a very slow and a process that you can't guarantee any outcome. So I'll show you some little examples of kinds of socio-psychological experiments we have done to align people. So the first example is, this is a picture of our attendance board. As I said, the project currently employs over 100 tribals. And every day, this board changes. Whoever comes to work, their picture is put up on the board. So what I realized after some time, that people actually started liking the fact that their pictures were on the board. Because before that, there was no, people are treating them as like pure laborers. There was no like identity that they had themselves. And there's a sense of pride that, my picture is there, created that emotional connect with the project. So we started with a very small team of 5 people. And slowly, this picture started spreading in their community. And now the numbers started swelling. And during COVID time, suddenly I had about 100 people show up one day saying, look, we are looking for jobs, because all the industry around it was shut down. And that is the time when I realized that it was time to kind of take a sabbatical and put full-time focus into it. Otherwise, it was becoming very difficult to manage this affair. So suddenly, the labor pool became available overnight because of the COVID shutdown. The second interesting experiment I tried is, there's a road leading up to the project site. So I got the names of all the villagers from the local sarpanch and made nameplates. And one fine morning, put up plates on every tree, indicating that this tree belonged to that particular villager. So when people woke up that morning, they saw there's a tree in their name. There's kind of a very unexpected development in the community. And so people are kind of puzzled and amused. Suddenly, what has happened? And it's not that they would start watering their tree just because the tree is in their name. But we noticed that something very interesting is happening. I had hired a contractor to water these trees every week. And the contractor is a local boy. So villagers started chasing him. Hey, I didn't see you at work last week. Go and water the trees. So my entire overhead of monitoring completely went away. And the locals took charge. And I'm glad to report that we have more than 95% survival on this roadside plantation. While normally on roadside plantation survival, it is very, very poor. Just because the people's emotions got involved in making sure that the project succeeds and survives. Now, once I sort of understood that connecting names with trees was a formula that seemed to be working, whenever any visitor who came to the project site, we started this new sort of a ritual or a procedure that every visitor fills. Whenever visitors come to the site, we have this little ritual that everyone fills up a slip, put their name, we put the tree number on that slip, we take the picture of the person with the slip. So in some sense, we have given MAC addresses to every trees, because every tree has to have a unique identifier. So you say, why not give an identifier to each tree and then you just do a name mapping. So now we have a, just like in the DNS, you have a IP address to MAC address mapping. Similarly, we are doing a name to directory mapping. So for example, the cards or the gift cards you have received, that mapping is captured in that card. So we've got this basic primitive now, that the name and mapped to the MAC address of the tree. So with this primitive, now what is interesting is that you can play many interesting games. So I'm a graduate of IIT Kanpur, and Institute had invited me to give a talk in year 2020, February. I went to give a talk. After the end of the talk, I came to know that about 750 professors have retired since the founding of the institute. So I said, give me the list. And I came back and created a faculty grove and shared this news with the director, and the director was very happy. Yeah, this is fantastic. At least, there's a tree in the name of every professor. And then something even fantastic happened. That year 2020 was the year when the Institute, IIT Kanpur, was celebrating its Diamond Jubilee. And the director had the grand plan to go all over the world, raise funds, meet with all the alumni, and that entire trip was cancelled because of the lockdown. So I called up the director and I said, well, there are about 40,000 graduates spread across the world. I have enough land. I'm going to plant a tree in the name of every graduate. And this will be your Diamond Jubilee celebration because you can't get out of the institute anyway. So he agreed. He said, it's a fantastic idea. So because of COVID, this project got blessed by the institute. And we are sort of creating the Diamond Jubilee Grove. And the director himself came to inaugurate that event. Now, slowly the word is spreading. And since Pune is a city which is a turf of IIT Bombay, so my IIT Bombay alumni came and contacted, what's going on? We also want to create a grove. So IIT Bombay Grove has been created. And slowly, the word is kind of spreading from one person to another. And I'm hoping that there are about 10,000 alumni groups in the country. So if that wildfire can start, everywhere the trees will start popping up, where there'll be names associated with all the trees. So once you've got this basic primitive of mapping names to the trees, you can play many variations of it. So alumni grove, faculty grove is one way to kind of slice and dice the problem. When my daughter graduated from high school, there were 60 of her batchmates, and she said, well, let's do a grove in name of all of my batchmates. So I said, okay, let's do a Gurukul graduation grove. So 60 trees standing on a farmer's land, and that's become a capture of their times together. So we now have anniversary groves, you have birthday groves, we have basically name any excuse that you want to remember, and we have a mechanism to create that grove at the project site. And one of the grove which is actually is receiving a lot of traction is Memorial Grove. People actually want to pay homage to their loved ones, come and plant a tree, have something live in memory of their loved ones. And here's an interesting story, not exactly to the picture people in this image, but a related story which I want to narrate. And I'll show you kind of how one idea leads to another. So there is a good friend of mine. His name was Swagato Basumalik. And he died about 2.5 years ago. So when he died, we have our batch WhatsApp group. And there were a lot of outpouring of emotions on that group. People remembering, such a great days we had together in the hostel, what a fantastic guy he was. Somebody wrote an article, somebody posted pictures, one person wrote a poem. And what I noticed that there was a lot of that activity was there for about 10 days. And then as sort of the memories fade, and WhatsApp is a media where, once some message goes out of 2 scrolls, it has served its lifetime. It doesn't have any meaning anymore. So I saved all of that content that was shared on the WhatsApp group on my local hard drive. And after that, even I forgot about it. Now, a year later, around the same day, the sort of the message again became alive. You know, it was 1 year, and you know how great Swagato was, and what a tragedy. So at that time, I posted a message in my batch group saying, "Look, I am planting a memorial grove in his name, and I would like you to spare half a day in your life, come visit Pune, and plant a tree with your own hands." And since then, about 25 of my batchmates have actually come. Somebody lives in, US, somebody lives in London, somebody lives in Delhi, Bangalore, all over, but about 25 have come. And the remaining have said, look, we will come someday. So I have, commitments. Now, when we make the dashboard for those trees, I started linking the content which they had posted a year ago about that person. So the content which was dead has suddenly become alive. Because now when you scan the tree, the piece of article the person had written, the piece of poem that the person had written has become alive again. And I'm also imagining that as you walk through that forest and as you scan different barcodes, those memories will come alive on your device. So the insight is that I'm seeing forests as a memory sequestration spaces. It's not about carbon sequestration, because memories are far more valuable to humans than carbon sequestration. And the value of memories is also much higher than the value of the carbon. So the attempts to finance a lot of reforestation projects by selling carbons are not going anywhere, because the price of the carbon is rock bottom and is just not enough to do it. While this project is growing and still doesn't have a viable financial model, but every day we are getting more and more people come and join. So an interesting kind of insight that came from this. Then there's another experiment we did. Arista hosted a mobility field day event 2 years ago, and question came, what gift to give to each delegate? I said, well, plant a tree and say that this tree will make their home Wi-Fi carbon neutral. So now they can use 24/7 Wi-Fi access point without any guilt at all. And people loved it. They said, wow, this is a beautiful gift. So we are kind of coming up with different ways to slice and dice the problem and position it. So that actually brings me to the ACM grove. And I think thanks to Hemant, he visited our site 2 years ago. And this is a location at the project site where the work was already going on. You see how the barren the land is. And the pond digging was happening, and in the rainy season, we were able to collect some water. And when Hemant came, and actually the first picture that I showed is exactly the picture where the ACM grove is actually coming up. And you can see a few trees there, one by one, they're kind of coming up. So when Hemant came 26th March 2022, he planted a tree in the name of Al Aho. And I think that's how the tradition of planting a tree in the name of Turing Award winner started, with Al being the first person. And then the next year, I think Shafi was the keynote speaker at but I think the year when Al's tree was planted, we did not have the design of the gift card ready. The gift card was designed a year later, and this is the gift card that was gifted to Shafi. And she was the keynote speaker at the last year's ACM annual event. And this year, 28 Jan, again the ACM India Council members came and they said, we want to personally come and plant trees. So all the trees that were gifted in the event today were actually planted by the people in this group. So there are real sort of connections involved. And I hope this tradition will continue for years to come. And these are the cards which capture the pointers to those trees, and a variety of trees have been planted. Now, an interesting story is the illustrations for this cards have been done by some artists who are just volunteering their time for 14 trees. So none of them is and they visited the site they like. So my daughter runs this program. She has a long list of species she wants to get illustrated. So in some sense, we are limited by the species which have been illustrated. We are kind of giving preference to those types. But once all illustrations are done, we will be able to plant more varieties. But it's kind of become a fun project now. The people who have a creative bent of mind, how do I make this gift more engaging to the group? So this journey of transforming the barren land into green has sort of started, and we are trying to make this journey kind of exciting, fulfilling, enjoyable. Because one thing I have learned, you don't want people to act out of moral obligations. Because people act out of moral obligations once. But if they enjoy something, they like something, they want to do it over and over again. So we want to turn this whole climate action into a fun, enjoyable activity for all people involved. And hopefully, sort of bit by bit, we are kind of getting there. So these are the real pictures of the barren land that I showed you earlier. Today, if you go to the site, this is what it has turned into, and more land is slowly turning into green as more and more trees are getting planted. So we have now, so interesting, we started the project with about 4 acres of land. Now the site has grown to about 200 acres. And then from the neighboring villages, we have access to additional 1,200 acres of land. So the land supply is increasing. And we are getting land from the farmers, we are getting land from the local villagers, we are getting land which we are also acquiring to add to our preserve. So vision is we'll create a kind of a man-made national forest someday. And the message about this activity is spreading through word of mouth primarily. There's really no outbound marketing at all. And within about 25-kilometer radius, we are now spread out over more than 100 sites where the work has now happening in parallel. And one day, actually, I sat on the Google Earth and measured. So that little green blob that you see is a 200-acre land where the active work is going on. Then little rectangle on the left side is another site that we have. And there is about 10 square mile of area which is sitting barren. And the good news is that the owners of these sites are automatically coming to us. Hey, take our land, add it to your pool. So that pull has kind of started. So I'm hoping that in few years, I'll be able to show a picture where we have successfully transformed this area. So as I said, technically it is not difficult. It is getting humans to agree, yes, do it on my land. That is the harder part. Because everyone has got different ideas about what they want to do their land asset. And this kind of a project actually is very relevant, timely, especially in this decade, when the whole United Nations wants to promote such activities all over the world. So the timing is good. And we are structuring this whole project as an open source activity. So while we've got the on-ground machinery very much running, there's an immense amount of back-end work that is needed to scale this up. Because imagine a database which has identifiers of all trees, you want to run different kinds of queries on it, you want to create gift card, you want to automate, you have new kind of imagery coming in. I mean, there's an immense amount of software development work that is needed at the back. And slowly, I'm kind of in the process of creating that community which will kind of pool in their efforts to help grow this activity. Now, at this point, I will take one pause and tell you that this project, no matter how many pictures and images I show you, nothing beats the experience of a real site visit. But I also realize it is not possible for everyone to come on site and have that experience. So I've sort of challenged many creative minds, how do I tell the story? And also we are living in a world where you need to have an elevator pitch for everything that you're working on. And my struggle has been, how do I create an elevator pitch for something that is going on? it takes about, a half an hour, 40 minutes to give a talk. Still, I can't relay even 10% of what's actually going on. So I'll actually give you a teaser of one collaboration I have recently done with a creative mind to convey the story in 4 images. So forget about the last 40 minutes I've been speaking. I'll now try to summarize that in 4 images. And the way the narration goes is like this. This is the picture of the real site taken a couple of years ago. Now my daughter, she is likes to do paint, so she took that picture and created a painting, oil painting of the landscape. And then we took that painting and we converted that, we took that painting and converted that into a collage. Now, what is this collage? So if I zoom in, this collage has thousands of pictures of barren land from my archive. So for the last 10 years, I have been doing a lot of trek in the area. And over COVID, when I was kind of jobless, I sat one day to compile all images together and put all the barren land pictures at one place and added them together to turn this. And you can see here the land is being burned, land is being mined, land is being kind of abused, being dug out. So the sentiment we want to convey is there's a massive amount of barren land sitting out there. Now the next collage is the economic activity we are generating on that barren land. So this is again a collage. And the story of this collage is I had created a transaction recording system that, every day we are doing 10, 15 transactions to fund the project. For every transaction, I have asked the people on the ground to upload a picture capturing what the transaction is about. So over the last 4 years, now we have thousands of pictures of meaningless objects. So if I zoom in, each image represents some transaction in the local economy. I bought some vegetables, I hired this guy, I rented a tractor, I bought these pipes, maybe, brought this drum full of material. I mean, some, minuscule transactions. But we now have thousands and thousands of these images. And this collage tries to show that all of it is actually adding up to fuel the local economy, generating jobs and fueling. And that's why people like it. Since the arrival of the project, many people have got livelihoods and they want the project to grow because their business will grow. So barren land, large amount of sitting there, job creation in the local economy. Now the third image, we protect each sapling with a tree guard. And there are thousands of these tree guards lined up in that area. And this kind of attracts attention. People are kind of curious, what is this? So this collage is made using thousands of pictures of locals who have walked into the site out of curiosity to figure out what's going on. So we have a process. As soon as somebody walks into the site, we take their picture, we write their name, and we say we are going to plant a tree in your name. So we are building a database of real people, real names, real images. And every day, more and more people are walking in and are getting sort of connected. So our community outreach is expanding every day. And that is what this image essentially tries to, the story this image tries to tell. So to repeat, the barren land, job creation, community engagement. And finally, this is the collage, which is again a real picture taken at the site. This collage is again made using thousands of images clicked on the real project site. So these images are of birds, butterflies, flowers, herbs, shrubs. None of this existed when the project started. So the barren land has got transformed into this. And in the process, we have created jobs and we have created community engagement. So this is sort of a completely different way of telling the story. And we are now working on sort of more iterations and variations of this. So with this background, I'll kind of switch the gear again to the original talk where I was. That this is our view of the ACM grow. I mean, we just started planting trees there, so it will take many years before the trees will grow and this will become like a green zone. But vision is that it'll be cool to build a database of all trees on globe Earth. So that number will be in trillions. And the reason people are coming to 14Trees because they have seen the site, they know the tree is real, it's there. So that trust is there that, the card is not fake, it is real. When you scale it up, how do you maintain that trust? That's a very non-trivial computer science problem, actually. And obviously, everyone cannot come and experience that space themselves. Hence, there is a need to create a virtual walk through such zones and deliver that experience online through some AR, VR. And finally, we want to have stories, memories attached with every MAC address that's behind each tree. And I think this is very much the forte of ACM. And I love an opportunity where maybe Google, Microsoft, or IBM sponsors a summer internship or a master's thesis to work at 14Trees. We can keep not just one, but many students busy to build this platform in time to come. So with that, I think we are at the top of the hour. Let me open. I think you already explained what the name 14Trees comes from. So I'll end it with the two aspirational sentences. One is obviously we've kept the name 14Trees because we want everybody on earth to take it seriously. And finally, given this particular forum, this would be a real kicker. If we can really get a tree for every MAC address active on earth, because then we are talking about 7, 8, 10 billions, or maybe who knows, another 20 billions. So with that, I think I'll stop. Any questions? Happy to take them now. Yeah, the question was, have you looked at the methods where you do something from the plane? Like people are talking about some techniques by which you can do seed dropping or you sort of drill holes and plant it. I have not tried those methods yet. And two reasons. We are not yet ready to automate this stuff. I think the first order problem right now is to just create jobs in the area. So if we bring in automation too quickly in the project, it will create social unrest. So first we want to make sure everybody is busy and they're not able to handle the scale that we're talking about. At that time, you bring in automation. And the second reason is the plantation is a one-day activity. The maintenance is a 3-year activity. And maintenance requires water. So water is the most critical problem there. So a lot of our effort goes into creation of water bodies, digging of ponds, and then distributing water from those holes to the trees. And again, we are doing a lot of it manually right now, but slowly we will bring in automation as the scale of the project grows.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for very fascinating talk. So I was just wondering about what was the main incentive for the landowners to really offer, what they were getting?
Actually, good question. So I'm focusing on land which is completely non-productive today. So land where a little bit of agriculture is possible, I'm staying away from it because then you have to do something which is better than that. So land which is totally useless, people think nothing can happen here, that's the land we are focusing on. And people are seeing that if this guy can green it, the water can come, then maybe it will become valuable to them. So the incentive is something is better than zero.
I think one question she has already asked. So, when you say valuable to them, so what does it actually mean? Like they can sell it or they can, that's one thing. Yeah. Second question, so do you have this geolocation of these trees also in this, or it's only you upload the pictures or you upload the information?
So if you go to the dashboard, there is a Google Earth interface where our aim is to show the exact pinpoint where the tree is located. But that piece of code is not fully ready yet. In fact, I'm looking for an intern who can work. We have that info, we're just not able to display it adequately yet. But we have the information for each tree, yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, see, you have to take that risk. I mean, there are going to be a certain percent of people who will benefit from our work and will try to monetize that benefit in some other ways, which is not consistent with how we want to see it. But at a scale, you have to take that risk. Otherwise, you'll never start. So, I'm assuming 30% of our effort will go waste. Or more, I don't know. We'll find out.
First, let me take this opportunity to thank Praveen for a wonderful talk and inspiring all of us to plant 14 trees to compensate for our life on this earth. Thank you, Praveen. And as a token of appreciation from ACM, there is an organization called 14 Trees that you may be aware of. So we thought we would just ask you to plant a tree that you already planted. So this is just an information about the tree that you have planted in your name. And you can track the progress using the QR code, or you can personally visit your tree every week that you're there.
So I think let me admit,
the progress.
This is the first time anybody is gifting the tree to me.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely, love it.
Thank you.
So now we're at the end of the day. It's time to say thank you. It's time to say goodbye. And it's also time to know where are we going next year. So I invite Professor Supratik Chakraborty, the Vice President of ACM India, to announce the next year's venue and for the vote of thanks.
Thanks, Meenakshi. Yeah, so all good things have to eventually come to an end. So we're at the end of this year's annual event, ACM India annual event, ARCS and the ACM W India event. So before I give the vote of thanks, here is the announcement about next year's annual event. So this will be held on 1st of March 2025. So the venue will be PSG College of Technology at Coimbatore. This is in the state of Tamil Nadu in southern India. And just like this year, there will be co-located events, which is the ARCS Symposium and the ACM India Women's Summit in Computing. And for the ARCS Symposium for next year, the PC chairs are Professor Shibashish Guha from TIFR in Mumbai and Dr. Niharika Sachdeva from Naukri.com. And on 27th and 28th February, we'll have these two events, and on 1st of March, we will have the annual event. And now, with that announcement for next year's event, let me give the formal vote of thanks for this year's event. Everybody who made this year's event so successful over the last 3 days. So first and foremost, our distinguished speakers, Bob Metcalfe, Yael Kalai, Sriram Krishnamurthy and Pravin Bhagwat. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules and enlightening us with your talks. The awardees, Nutan Limaye for the outstanding contributions to computing by a woman, Sudeep Mishra for the outstanding contribution to computing education, Siddharth Burman for the Early Career Research Award, Pranjal Datta for the ACM India Doctoral Dissertation Award, Jogendranath Kundu, who joined us online, the honorable mention for the ACM India Doctoral Dissertation Award, the various ACM India chapter awardees, UPES, ACMW Student Chapter Dehradun, MUJ ACM Sigbed Student Chapter Jaipur, PCC OE ACM Student Chapter Pune, AISSMS IOIT ACM Student Chapter Pune, KRE ACM Student Chapter Madurai, VIT Chennai ACMW Student Chapter Vellore. Thank you for all the representatives from these chapters to come here and accept your awards. Of course, colleagues from ACM HQ, Yanis Ionidis, President, Vicky Hansen, CEO, Pat Tran, CEO, and Ruth Lennon, ACMW Chair. Thank you very much for coming here on this occasion and sharing her experiences and insights and giving us advice. Uh, a big thanks to the organizing institute, which is the National Institute of Science and Science Education and Research, NICER, uh, particularly NICER Director, Dr. Hitendra Kumar Ghosh, who was here this morning. The organizing chairs for this 3-day event that we had, Aritra Banik. Aritra, are you here somewhere? Okay. So, Shubhankar Mishra. Shubhankar. Yeah, okay. Big round of hand for them, please. Devi Prasad Dogra. Devi Prasad, are you here? Not here. Manas Jyoti Kashyap. So they are the ones who are, leading the entire team responsible for all the logistics here. Uh, all the students from NICER who actually worked behind the scenes to make everything smooth for us. So I'll just read out their names. If any of you are here, please stand up. I mean, you all deserve a hand from us. Rucha Balachandra Joshi. Are you here? Not sure. They're probably still taking care of logistics. Jyotirmoy Shivottam. um, Jyotish Kumar J. Shriman Keshri, Adil Shah, Anubhav Vishwakarma, Aritra Mukhopadhyay, Prashman Ghosh, Pinky Pradhan, Bhaskar Goel. None of them are here. Okay. Sarthak Gupta, Parveen, Aravind Panda, Ritvik Raghav, Ayush Anand, Narasimhan Kovalai, Ram Sundar Tanikela, Shubhra Jyotsna Dash, Anuj Chaure, Sai Krishna Jupali, and Sushant Kumar. All the logistics were really taken care of by this team of very dedicated students. Some of them have come in. Yeah, thank you very much for all the organization. Then we had the audio-visual team, which was led by Prasanna Kumar Muduli and his team for all the audio-visual arrangements. Thanks to the sponsors of the various awards, in particular Persistent Foundation, Google, Tata Consultancy Services, Microsoft Research India, and Walmart Global Tech. Thanks also to the event sponsors, Persistent TCS Research, Google, Carillon Global Solutions, Flipkart, Dell Technologies, and IBM. Thanks to Microsoft and Plaksha University for sponsoring the dinner last 2 days. If you did not know, they were sponsored by Microsoft and Plaksha University. Thanks to ACM India Women Chair Rudvi Shah and her team for the ACMW India event, and to all the ACMW India event speakers as well. Thanks for sparing your time to come and present your talks here. For the ARCS symposium, once again, our thanks to all the speakers, the steering committee members, area chairs. There were 18 area chairs who were involved in selecting the papers from academia and industry. And a special thanks to the program chairs, Arpita Patra from Indian Institute of Science. She had to leave a bit earlier today. And Karthik Ramachandra from Microsoft. Thank you very much. All the chairs and jury members of the 4 awards. Rajiv Alur led the jury for the doctoral dissertation award. Meenakshi Balakrishnan, I think he's here somewhere. Yeah. So he led the jury for the OCCE award, Outstanding Contributions to Computing Education. Sandhya Dwarkadas, I think she's also here. Thank you for leading the jury for Outstanding Contributions to Computing by a Woman. And Sunita Saravagi, she couldn't be present here, for leading the jury for the Early Career Researcher Award. And Vineet Kapoor, Vineet, you're here? Yeah. Thank you for leading the jury for the chapter awards. And of course, behind all of this, throughout the course of the last 1 year, there are a lot of individuals from ACM India who have put in a lot of hard work to make sure everything happens smoothly. In particular, Chandrasekhar Shahasrabuddhe Shekhar, thank you very much. Avijat Vichare. Avijat, are you here? He's probably still arranging our return logistics now. Hemant Pandey, of course. Hemant, thank you. Uh, Minakshi D'Souza, who emceed the entire event, and Venkatesh Raman, thank you. Uh, it's also, an appropriate occasion to mention that Sriram's, Bob's, and Yael's visits were sponsored by a special grant called the Pullur Distinguished Computing Visitor Program Grant. So this is an ambitious program that was launched a year back in collaboration with the Indian Institute of Science and ACM India through a very generous donation by Ms. Nirmala Govindan in memory of her husband J. Pullur, who founded Pramati Technologies. And this grant supports visits of distinguished computer scientists of the highest global stature to India to give talks at one of ACM India's top events, and also to interact with students and researchers at various academic institutions and research organizations in India. So, our sincere thanks to the Pullur Grant for supporting the travel of our distinguished speakers. So, with that, we come to the end of this program. And of course, there are many other individuals who have put in their own part in making the events over the last 3 days a grand success. So, thanks to all of them. Thank you very much. See you next year.